nerds, I'm back. I hope you all are enjoying the content that we prepared for you. We are almost finishing the first day of our Congress, but first, it's a pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker. He is a professor at Anaheim University. He has worked in Asia, the Middle East, North and South America, lecturing on language teaching and computer assisted language learning from the primary through university levels. He is author and co-author of 148 readers and textbooks and has given more than 500 teacher training sessions and conference presentations in 35 countries. Dr. Ken, welcome to the Wizard Pedagogical Congress 2021.
Great to be here. Welcome, everyone. I know you're a little bit late on your workshop, so I'm still going to try to finish by 6:30, but I'll have lots of time for questions for anybody who hangs around. As we're going through the presentation, you can write questions in the chat box and share that, and then we'll get them at the end. If we cannot answer your questions on time, I'll answer them later. So we can get your emails, and then I'll do that. Also, my email is at the last slide, so you can look at that and contact me after if you want. I have a theme for this today's presentation, and it's to do with tiles and patterns. I think this is a lot like learning. We start with this very simple shape, and then we repeat it, we extend it, we add more, it connects with other shapes, and that's way that learning works. So I've just used a lot of pictures about tiles and patterns in the background. It's really just eye candy. It's something for you to enjoy and take your mind off it as we work through the presentation. But also, as we work through the presentation, afterwards, whenever you see a tile or a pattern, I hope you think of me. So Learning Plus Life Language Teachers Making an Impact. It's been a challenging year, a very difficult year for everyone, and I don't have to explain why. It's been tough because of COVID and so many changes that we've been going through. During these changes, one of the great things is that teachers have adapted to the changes. Now, I teach graduate students and doctoral students. That's who I work with. And I always, at the beginning of my classes, I always have a question for them. I said, where have you been working this past year? And I show them my office. This is where I work. This is the view of my office, what it looks like. My computers and my wife's paintings up there. And I always ask them, what do yours look like? And I had one student doing her doctorate in Korea, and she sent me this picture, and she said, well, this is where I've been working this past year. But there's something unusual about this picture, and maybe you can spot it, or you've spotted it already. The unusual thing is this: it's a bed. It's a bed. And this is something that we've seen over and over this past year, is teachers have been heroes. Why is she a hero? There's a bed in her office. Well, when the pandemic started, she works at a military base, and the general in charge of the military base say, we can't have you coming and going home every night out in the community and then coming back. We can't have the soldiers, the chance of infection. Would you be willing to move to the school? And she said, okay, where will I sleep? And he said, well, you'll sleep in your office. And she said, she didn't hesitate. She said, okay, that's fine. And for 3 months, that's where she slept, taught all day and slept all day. Heroes, really. And I know among you, there must be 1,000 stories that are similar, some way in which you help students. So teaching online. For some of you, you've been doing it for a while. For other people, it's new. What is different? What is different? Well, we're really learning about that now because we've been forced to teach online. And there's a number of different differences, and I'm just going to talk about 7. First of all, teachers need to connect students in communities. What does this mean? communities? Well, they have to have friends, they have to have study buddies or small groups or pair work, more things where outside of class they have somebody who can help them. Because normally in a traditional classroom, you can turn to the person on your right or your left and say, I don't know what the teacher's talking about. Can you explain it for me? But all of a sudden, when everyone is separated online, it's difficult. So one lesson is we have to create communities and connect students to each other. One very simple way of doing this, create Gmail accounts for students, just for your one class. It allows them to exchange their emails, but still retain some privacy. Online classes needs to focus on communicative tasks. Too many classes are the teachers talking, and they give a lecture for an hour, and the students are just sitting there falling asleep, and it's terrible. We have to use the online classes as a chance for students to talk to each other. Instruction needs to be explicit, multimodal, and easy to access. What does it mean? What do I mean there? Well, first of all, explicit, especially when we're giving instructions or things that students have to do, we have to make sure they really understand. The best way to do this is to make our instruction about language learning multimodal. So yes, we're talking to them, we give a little lecture, but also they have a textbook, or they have some videos they can watch, or they have some activities to engage with the materials, not just listening. And it has to be easy to access. And this, in fact, has been one of the great things about online learning, is students have videos of their teachers and they can watch it again and again, or parts they don't understand they can watch again. The fourth one is assessment needs to be more formative and less summative. What do we mean, formative, summative? Formative is when you give a test but you don't take the marks. The students have the assignment and they learn from it. They learn, what do I know? What do I need to know? What did I think that I knew, but maybe I don't? So this formative assessment lets the students know where they are in the classroom. Summative assessment is where we make a decision. Do the students, can they move forward to the next level, to the next grade, to the next class, to graduation in some way? But give much more formative assessments so they have a better idea of how well they're doing. The fifth one is students need to be motivated, disciplined, self-directed, and they have to be very good at time management. It's very easy for students to sleep through the day. I know my younger son is in second year university, and really he needs a lot of these things in order to get to class on time first thing in the morning, because it's, even if it's online. And 6, students need to interact properly. Now, this is about being polite and being, giving chances for others to speak, and all of the things that we would normally do in a classroom where a teacher would say, oh, excuse me, someone's speaking now. And also they need to be polite, use full sentences, not just short forms or emojis to express themselves. And participation needs to be deep and frequent. So what do we mean by that? Well, there needs to be in every class some chance for the students to speak. They can talk to each other, they can talk to everyone, they can talk to the teacher, and it has to happen often. These are things that we know that work, and there's I've just given the names of 3 authors about this, and at the end of this, there's references if you want to learn more. I've made all the references, things you can find online. You don't have to go to the library and look for a book. So you can look these up after if you want more information. One big challenge that we have is not enough time. There's not enough time to learn a language just in the classroom. If students only come, every day, sit there, listen, do their exercises, they really don't learn enough. Students need to make more efforts outside of the classroom. So my idea is to give students more side projects, more fun things to do outside of class to work on. These can help to promote lifelong learning. So the big idea is lifelong learning. By learning something on their own outside, they get into the habit, and then they will continue to do that for a while. So when you give students these types of assignments outside of class that are fun or engaging in some way, there's a few principles we should follow. There's 4, and I'm going to talk about each of these in turn. And again, I'll just mention this, that after my presentation, the PDF, as well as a video of the presentation, is available. You can share it with other teachers or friends. And again, you can write me if there's anything you don't understand. We start off with the first principle: personalized learning. Students remember content much better when it relates to their own culture, their own activities, their own geography, their history, interests, their needs, and different sports that they do. So whatever it is, if somehow they can tie it to something they're doing in their real life, then it's personal and it means much more to them. The second point is to individualize learning. Now, every student doing the same assignment is an invitation to plagiarize, especially online. It's better to choose a theme and ask every student to do a slightly different topic. What do you mean? What do you mean? Then they're all doing something different. That's good. That's good. So if it's like, if you want them to talk about a country, you say, okay, everyone, we're doing geography or history or culture. I want everyone to talk about a different country. Oh, teacher, what if we choose the same country? Not my problem. Talk to each other. Make sure you all have a different country. And that way they're connecting and communicating with each other. So it's this principle that Stuart Brand put forward years ago. He said, instead of having 30 students read one book in a classroom, imagine what happens when 30 students read 30 books. And his idea is, of course, you can imagine, then they start talking about it. And I've seen this working in classrooms. I've seen it with my own kids when they were younger, and the teacher would do this. And of course, what happens is, you know, the student says, oh, what are you reading? What are you reading? Oh, I'm reading this. It's really, really good. You should read it next. Okay, I will. And it promotes education. It promotes communication. It promotes learning. So individualize that. Externalize learning. Choose tasks that students can work on outside of class and continue to think about on outside of class. So open-ended sort of fun projects that they can continue to do and that they will think about. They will invest time in it. If you do projects only in class and the work's only in class, it's a waste of teaching time. They might as well do extra work outside of class. And finally, make learning collaborative. Languages are to communicate, and language learning should be communicative. So make opportunities for this to happen in different ways. So what do we mean, communicate? Well, as soon as you put 2 students working together on a project, we get into what's called scaffolded learning. So one student has one idea, the other one asks a question, say, what's that? Say, oh, I understand, and here's another idea. And they build their language, they build their vocabulary, they build their grammar, just simply by communicating about a task. So we have to create these communicative opportunities for them to do projects together. Too often, all of our assignments we give to students and they're individual. Why? Language is not an individual thing. Language is communicating with other people. We need other people to talk to. So try to change the paradigm a little bit and create more pair work, more group work. Okay, so I'm going to give you some fun activities. So I've got 25 activities that they personalize, individualize, and externalize language learning while still making it collaborative and motivating students to do more outside of the classroom. So I'm going to go through these 25, and I might go a little quickly, but again, the PDF is available afterwards. And maybe you won't do all 25 of them, but 2 or 3, you might think, okay, this is a good idea. This would really work with my students at their level and their age group. So let's look. Let's start with 1. So the first one is to create community language learning. This is an assignment. What do this do? Oh, how do I know they've done it? Well, as students take a picture just like this. Think of a way, this was the assignment, think of a way to help strangers learn English or learn something else in English. And this is just something I found actually online, but I love it. It's hopscotch, we call it in English. So this, you know how you jump from one to one. And you know what's obvious here? For me, I know how to play this. I just look at this and I know how to play it. What do? Well, you start at the beginning with a pronoun like he or she or it or they or we, something like that. And then you jump to the next square and you're using a preposition, and a verb. So as you go through it, you're building a sentence, right? So what a fun thing. And what does it cost? Nothing, a piece of chalk. And you can do it on any sidewalk. So I thought this was a great idea for educating. There's lots of different things that you can do like this. Here's another one, which is popular in Montreal. There's lots of these. They put them up. It's a kind of a movement in Montreal. They do these profiles of different people's heads, and then they write something on them. So this one says, "You are the reason I am smiling today." But the great thing is it's also in French. Tu es la raison pour laquelle je souris. So I'm an English native speaker, but I'm learning French. So I look at this and I think, okay, I can learn a little French. Souris, smiling. Je souris. I am smiling. Okay, I know that now. Okay, so why does this work? Okay, so I've got a lot of ideas about each one of these, about how they work. When we teach, we learn twice, right? And you know this. When you teach something, you really, really learn it much, much better. So an aim of education is to make learning memorable. So students who do community projects like this get positive feedback from others, and they'll never forget it. They say, "Oh, remember that project you did last year?" Of course. 10 years ago? Of course, because it's different. It's not just writing a paragraph or writing an essay or reading a poem in class, right? It's doing something a little bit different. Number two, do a cooking show. All right, so take a video with your phones and edit the clips together to make a short cooking show. Okay, so everybody eats every day. Almost everybody can at least fry an egg or do something else. If you want, you can get your mother to help you and she can cook, you can film her, but you just have to do it in English, right? So if possible, work together with other students, and then they get the idea of working together. So this idea of making a short cooking show, how do I do that? How does a cooking show work? There's a million cooking shows on YouTube and on TV, so the students already know how it works. It's easy to see how it works. So they can see the format about giving a recipe, maybe sharing ideas and tips, but of course they just have to do it in English. All right, why does this work? Why does it work? Okay, again, it makes it memorable. It's a memorable task, and it associates language with other senses, not just reading and writing, but you're seeing, you're touching, you're hearing, you're smelling, you're tasting, all of these things together. So when you do something, you make it work. These are my two sons making pizza last week. All right. Collaborative activities promote scaffolded learning. We talked about scaffolded learning. That's where one student helps the other. Say, what do you call this? Oh, it's a slice. Oh, what do you mean? Slice. Is that a noun or a verb? Oh, it's both. It's a noun when you have a slice, a little pie piece, and it's a verb when you're doing the cutting, right? So they learn from each other. So it creates those opportunities. You don't have to be there monitoring everything. And that type of learning may not even show up in the final video, but it's there. You're creating opportunities for externalizing the learning. Craft a letter to your younger self. Number 3. Give advice to your younger self. What would you suggest that your younger self do differently? Don't worry so much, right? Kiss the girl. Something else. What would you explain about the best things that you did? And what would you say? Yeah, that trip that you took on the sailboat, oh, you should remember that for always, and you should always pay more attention. And spend less time on your phone or read more or do something else. So drafting a letter to your younger self. Now with a lot of these, I'm going to come back and I'm not going to repeat it every time, but it also has a lot to do with specific tenses, grammatical tenses. So if you're drafting a letter to your younger self, it's also a genre. So you're speaking in a certain way, but it's a genre as well. So why does it work? The task gets students, in this case, using modals. So what should, could, would, might I have done differently? So you think about all the things that you could have done differently. It's a reflective task. So each student, it's individual and personal. Every student is going to have different things that they're talking about. There's no plagiarism. And it goes along with the idea that it's never too late. So it can help students reassess their goals, including their language goals. So they think a little bit more about what they've learned and what they want to learn. So it's a good thing to do. Maybe you're thinking already about your own youth. Maybe you can do this as well. Number 4, draw a map of the school neighborhood. So work in a group, get a big piece of paper or something, or digitally if they're working at home. Then they can put it online. Somebody draws a map in a drawing program, and then everybody starts labeling all the things. Or you just simply go on to Google Maps and you label all the buildings around in English. So you have all of that information, not personal, you don't want to put my house on there, but everything else. Why is this a good idea? Why does it work? Well, when students learn in a classroom, they may forget soon after they step out of the door. So we teach them so many things, and you know this yourself, all the things that you've learned in all the time you're in school and university. You say, oh, I used to know that, and you don't anymore. But when you tie learning to people, places, things, and actions that students see every day, students can better remember. So for example, they walk out the door of the school, they look across, and there's the grocery store, but they think in English, grocery store. Okay, I remember that word. And the next door is the bank. I remember that word, because it's visual and it's really connected. It also has something to do with this scary looking guy, Herman Ebbinghaus. In 1895, he came up with he was a psychologist, and he came up with this idea about learning. He realized he was interested how quickly students forgot what they learned. And he came up with this idea of spaced repetition. So this is his idea. Take notes in the classroom. The next day, within one day, go through all your notes in detail. 1 week later, spend 5 to 10 minutes and go through them again. 1 month later, go through them again. This is a continuing pattern to try to learn things. I do it myself because I put articles that I've read, I take a few notes on it, then I reread it and read my notes and go through. It really does help you remember. So it's something that students can do. It's called spaced repetition. And again, you can read more about Ebbingham if you like. Establish a new holiday. What? Number 5. This is a very funny one. Create and name a new holiday. Think of the reasons for it. What do you wear? What do you do? What do you eat? How do you celebrate the holiday? It's a crazy idea, but students can do it. It's open-ended. It's not something they're going to look up on Google or copy or plagiarize from each other. It's all individual. It's all personal. Everybody has their own interests, so they're going to come up with some special kind of a holiday. Why does this work? Well, tasks with novelty, ones that are new to students, are more attractive and they're more memorable. Compare this to say, okay, I want you to read a story, or I want you to write an essay, something. It's not quite as interesting for students. But the open-endedness of a task means students can excel in different aspects. So you leave it a little bit open for what students can do, but you can also ask students to create rubrics to determine how their tasks should be assessed. Say, how are you going to show me that you succeeded at this task? What? Isn't that your job? Aren't you supposed to be judging us? No. I want you to tell me what should it be able to do. And then they start thinking on another level. They start thinking, okay, well, what is the task? So the holiday should have a name. It should have 3 things you do. It should have, whatever. And so they start thinking of that. And then they are writing the assessment. So they're aware of how it should be assessed. So it creates a very, very strong idea about how it can all work. So novelty, again, it makes it very memorable as a task. You want to tie this in. You want to tie this into something you're doing in class. If it's Valentine's Day or Christmas or Easter or summer holidays, anything, you just tie it into some other holidays that you're having. And students will start thinking, and they're using all of the holiday vocabulary and grammar associated with that unconsciously. And they don't think they are, but they will. Number 6, finish a story. You often finish real and fictional stories after only seeing or hearing a small part and wondering or guessing about what happens next. We do this all the time. Somebody starts telling you a story, you're already guessing what happens at the end. Or you go to watch a movie and say, oh, I bet he kisses her next, or something's going to happen. You've got an idea. You've got an idea about finishing stories. So what we can do is we can give students the start of a story and ask them to finish it. This is a famous one from Franz Kafka, written in 1912. As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a giant insect. So, Metamorphosis by Kafka, this is the story. So what happens next? What would you do? What would I do, right? And again, it starts students thinking, and everyone can think of something different. They won't plagiarize because they're going to have their own ideas. Why does this work? Why does this work as an activity? A vital critical thinking skill for communicating is rehearsing gambits and scripts in your mind about what you will say in almost every situation. Okay, what are these words, gambit and scripts? So a gambit is a strategy you use. Like if you say, how are you? It's a gambit for finding out some information, but more so to introduce yourself to someone else. Or if you say something like, hi, I don't think we've met, right? Something like that. It's a gambit. A script is for a series of things you will see, right? So if you go into a bank, you're going to deposit some money, you have to talk to the teller, or a policeman is behind you. You think, oh my goodness, what is the policeman going to say? What would I say? Any sort of situation like that, you probably think about what you're going to say next. Couple meeting right here. You can see at a table in Montreal last week. Okay, so students need to practice mentally preparing for what they say in countless situations. It really helps us communicate far better if we can sort of think about what we're going to say in advance. Number 7, guess from synonyms. This is just kind of a word game, and this is something you might ask students to prepare outside of class, but then bring to class, and you could play it in class. So they could play it among themselves and practice, and then try to stump each other. So think of a word, and then find 7 synonyms. As you say the synonyms, others try to guess the word. The more unusual the word, the more synonyms it might take. So you think, okay, what do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, well, here's an example, right? So adversary, antagonist, competitor, foe, nemesis, opponent, rival, right? I know, you're so smart. I know probably all of you have thought already of what the answer is. Enemy, right? So they're all synonyms for the word enemy. So it's just kind of like a game that students can play, but again, they just do a little bit of preparation outside. So this is a very, very simple task. Why are you doing this? You're expanding their vocabulary. Every student is picking a different word or a different set of words, and so they are teaching each other, and suddenly you're learning foe. Oh, that's what foe means. Oh, I get it now. And they're scaffolding their learning, again, learning from each other. It's a great opportunity. So why does this work? The task encourages students to become more aware of synonyms and learn to expand their vocabularies instead of just using the same words all the time. Nice, good, bad, they start looking for some other words that can express themselves more fully. Students also become aware of subtle differences among synonyms. Which one would you use when talking about something else? So if we look at these, we say, when would we say adversary? When would we say antagonist? Well, an adversary I would use when I'm playing chess with my sons, who's my adversary. But an antagonist is somebody who is trying to hurt you. So a competitor also, like maybe when I'm in a race, right? So a nemesis is a long-term thing, and it could be a thing rather than a person. So all of these are different ones that we would use in different ways. So students start to think, what are the differences between synonyms? Okay, number 8. Oh, we still have lots to go through. Number 8, how many ways can you say something? When somebody asks you, how are you? The most common response is, fine, thank you, right? And all around the world, I go and when I'm in places in Asia in particular, I'm walking down the street and little kids say, how are you? How are you? I get that all the time. But it's not the only answer. Fine, thank you isn't the only answer. Similarly, when you want to express disagreement, you have dozens and dozens of options, right? So here are some. When you want to say no, you can say different things. You can say, sorry, I have something else. I can't. No, thanks. Nope, nope. Not this time. Sadly, no. Sorry. Unfortunately, not. It's not a good time, right? These are all saying no, but in different contexts and different ways. So again, this is an exercise which gets students aware. Why does it work? Why does it work? The outdated audiolingual approach taught students to believe that there were limited statements and limited answers. That's the way we taught language from the 50s to the 70s. It's not true. Students need to be flexible and use context and listening skills to share the most appropriate language. So again, they have options. They have different ways. And it's something you can do in class is saying, okay, that's a good answer. Can you say it another way? Right? Can you say it another way? And just forcing students to rethink, okay, that's the second way. Can you say it another way, right? And just force students to think. Also, we should teach body language at the same time. I know that Brazilians are very warm people and very emphatic. When I go to Brazil, the best thing is the hugs and the kisses, right? I love that. Not like going to Japan, right? So not like going to the Middle East. So I love that. I love that. And the very expressive Brazilians are expressive, and we should teach that expressiveness in English as well. Okay, illustrate. Number 9, illustrate your vocabulary. Keep a sketchbook of your new vocabulary. Add drawings of new things that you learn. I'm not a great artist. My wife is, but I'm not. But I do paint. So I've been painting for years. So when I see something new, I like to paint, do little drawings. And sometimes I'll put the language in French because I'm trying to learn French. I study Chinese, Spanish, and French. And so I'm trying to learn a little bit more. So I might put those words in there as well. Why does it work? It's easier to remember new vocabulary and structures if you transfer them among skills. So you know this. When you read a word, you also need to say it. You also need to listen to it being said. It's better if you write it. So the more you do this, it's shifting it among the different skills, the different parts of your brain, the better you're going to sort of have to understand all of it and remember it. So drawing words further enhances your memory. When you draw something and write the name, you don't forget. I don't care. I don't care if you say, oh, but I'm not an artist. It doesn't matter. Even a stick figure is fantastic. It's a great way to keep a little visual dictionary. Number 10, imagine the world without, okay, so this is a very speculative one. So what would the world be like if we didn't have any chairs? It's a crazy idea again. And because it's a crazy idea, if you do this once in a while, it captures students' attention, and it's also not something that they can go online and look for the answer. So what would the world be like if there weren't trees or wheels or land or land? So if there was only oceans, what would it be like? We would all be living in boats, I guess, right? What if there were, and we'd all be very good swimmers, I think. Colors, what if everything was black and white, right? Smells, borders, mountains, all these things. It doesn't matter what it is, but of course you will pick something associated with what you're learning this week in class. So if you're studying something in class, like food, you say, well, what if there was no, something like this, and you think of something new, and what would the world be like then? Okay, so why does it work? Why does it work? It's a creative task, and it forces students to unconsciously use the subjunctive tense. Now, this is true, again, as I mentioned already, of many of these tasks. They will force students to use particular vocabulary structures, particular grammatical structures. So if there were no chairs, we would, okay, so this is a typical subjunctive tense. Tasks without clear answers, they encourage also multiple answers. If I ask you to say, okay, class, what is the capital of what is the capital of Brazil? Everybody, boring. And, one student puts up their hand and it's Brasilia. And then you think, it's no learning going on. But what if you say this? What if you say, why is Brasilia the capital? Oh, Well, that's a much more interesting one, right? That's a historical, political, sort of interesting question, architectural, the beautiful architecture of Brasilia. There's a lot of controversial and interesting ideas that all of a sudden come into it. So instead of just asking for facts, we're asking for ideas. Number 11, improve your favorite song lyrics. Okay, I promise I won't sing, but this is a song by Celeste. Isn't it strange how people can change from strangers to friends, friends into lovers, and strangers again? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. But yeah, if the student likes whatever song they like, and again, it's personalized and individualized, change it. So didn't I say English is the way for you to aspire to reach out and try to go much higher? Okay, so again, maybe that's not the better song, but again, students can do this. Why does it work? Music, again, is memorable, and students who do this once successfully will continue to do it on their own. It's necessary for students to consider rhyme, syllables, tone, pronunciation. You don't have to tell them that. You don't have to say, okay, class, today we're going to practice rhyme, syllables, tone, and pronunciation. You don't have to say that. You can just say, do this, rewrite the lyrics, and they will learn it. They will learn all of these things, unconsciously. So it's a great opportunity. Number 12, okay, better speed this up. Invent a language game. Choose a topic or grammar feature to create a game. It can be a board game, a physical game, or a game that builds on another game, something based on something else. Why does it work? Students can model their games after existing ones. They don't have to start from scratch, and tailor them to the topic or grammar focus of your lessons. Games promote healthy competition, during which students lower their affective filters. What does this mean, affective filters? The nervousness that people have that makes them not want to speak in front of a group, talk to other people, right? When I was younger, I was so nervous. Speaking in front of people was terrifying. This year, I gave a webinar. There was 4,000 teachers, right? So I'm just not, because I practiced so many times. I've lowered my affective filters and I'm not embarrassed anymore. Number 13, keep a reading and writing diary, something I do. List everything you read and write during 1 week. I give this as a task to my students. What's surprising? What do you want to change? What do you need to understand in English? Use categories to count totals. So just for example, in my week, in this past week, I thought about it before this lesson. I read 1 magazine, 2 novels, almost finished, 9 recipes, because I do lots of cooking, 77 text messages, 287 emails, 311 web articles in the news. I wrote a birthday card, 5 shopping lists, 6 reminders, 42 text messages, and 113 emails. So why does this work? It raises awareness, and you can see many of these topics do this. It raises awareness of what students are reading and writing. You can use this information to make lessons more relevant to students based on their reading and writing needs. So if you see, oh, students are reading so many text messages, maybe you say, okay, let's have an assignment about text messages and do something with that. Students will also assess what others are reading and writing, and then they start questions or conversations. So they're asking each other, oh, what did you write? Well, that's unusual. Why are you writing so many shopping lists? Or why are you doing this? And it starts a conversation among them. Number 14, a fun one, list excuses. List all the excuses you hear and use in 1 week. There's a picture of a dog here. I don't know if it's the same in Brazil, but the biggest joke, is that when you didn't do your homework, you would say, oh, teacher, I'm so sorry. The dog ate my homework. Oh, I thought you didn't have a dog. Oh, another dog ate my work. Okay, share with the class. All the excuses you hear. Typical ones, I'm too old to start. I don't have the talent. I'm too busy. I'm not smart enough. I need support. I don't have enough time. These are all ones that people have as excuses for not doing something, not learning something. Why does this work as a task? Excuses are a genre. Many of these are, and collecting excuses helps students understand how excuses and other genres work. So they understand the structure of an excuse. What is it? I'm late. That's the statement. Because the causation, you're linking to another reason there. There was a snake on the bus. Okay, so that's the reason. So this is a structure for excuses, and they'll see that. If you ask them to collect any other kind of genre, like phone messages or text messages, they will have other formulas. Language is formulaic, so they start to see that over and over again. 15, research a topic deeply. Doesn't matter what the topic is. I don't care. Could be football, could be astronomy, could be anything. But even something that you already know a lot about in your first language, but study it in English. Ask questions. Take a semester. Don't do this as a 1-week project. Do this as a 6-month project or 5-month project. Get students really thinking deeply about it so that they can continue researching something. Why does this work? I have PhD students, and they always joke. I joke with them. I say, it's doing a PhD is learning more and more about less and less. So you're going from big to small. It's natural to be curious, but a challenge to maintain curiosity long enough to become an expert. So pursuing one topic helps students develop their research skills, and their general language skills improve as well. So I don't care what they do. If they want to spend a year talking, thinking about football and learning everything in English about football, all that language is transferable. It's not just technical language. All the intermediary language is transferable. Number 16, sketch a family and a friend tree. So sketch a diagram of everyone you know, not just your family members. Then add friends and other people you meet often. Include details like professions. So you can list all these people. Why does this work? Well, it's anchoring. Anchoring classroom content to students' lives ensures that they continue to think about the lessons that they've learned. So the word "and," it's an easy word anyway. Everybody learns this quite young. But we learn it, young kids learn it because they always tie it to their mother's sister or their father's sister. That's an aunt. And they know somebody. They know Aunt Maria. And that's why they learn it so well. So it provides a local context and proper usage to the language. So again, if they list all their friends, all their people they know, and they say, oh, this is my doctor, my dentist, this is somebody else, this is the guy who, is a carpenter who works in the house, suddenly all of that language becomes much more real. It's contextual. Take photos on a theme, and I don't think you can do this in Brazil, so much of snowmen, but I live in Montreal. It's very cold here in the winter, and it snows a lot, and people go berserk building snowmen, but just not snowmen. You see a man, a woman here, a penguin, and looks like a polar bear or something like that. Everybody takes photos, but everybody chooses a different topic. You see, I do this. I take photos obsessively, right? Everyone can take photos on their phones and then choose the best 10. So by forcing them to choose ones, then they're editing. So it works because it's a creative and a critical thinking process. It doesn't matter what they do. They can take bicycles, they can take anything. It doesn't matter. But explaining the choices has many language and communicative aspects. So they have to describe. So you look at these, they're all snowmen or snow people, but they're all different. How are they different? So then you again have to use English language to explain these things. Teach a skill, number 18. Use English to teach a skill, a hobby, or an interest that you know. Take photos or make a video to present the information in other ways. This is a little bit like the cooking class that we mentioned earlier, but any skill, and every student has one special skill that they do. An important part of this is presenting it in the way. We don't always have to have students do essays. They can do puppet shows, they can do PowerPoints, they can do videos, so they can create a series of photos and write an article, right? Why does this work? Every student does at least one thing well. Everybody does. Sharing helps the students bond because suddenly they say, oh, you collect stamps. I collect stamps too. Oh, you do ballet. I do ballet too. So they start connecting with other students. So they bond together. But it also raises their self-esteem if they can talk about some things that they do well. Right? So we talk about, something that maybe you're an expert in. Make the form of the presentation open-ended. Again, puppet show, that's fine with me. This allows students to choose a format that suits their strengths. Some students are very confident, like doing a puppet show, they would think that's funny and easy and they'd love to do it. But other ones are maybe shy and they think, oh, I could never do that. I'll do a video because I can redo it, 100 times until I get it perfect. So it suits them. Not everybody has to do the same thing, and it breaks up the monotony of class to have different types of assignments. Okay, so turn a story into a play. Take a story that you know, could be a fairy tale, could be a children's story, could be anything, something that happened to someone, a news story, and turn it into a short play where you all act it out. Video record it on your phone, right? I was in 2019, I was in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and on a Sunday, and I shut down the streets, and there was these actors there. Fantastic, right? So that's where that's from. Why does this work? Why does this work? Grammatically, it's a challenge to convert from reported speech to direct speech. So again, this is when you want to do it. If you're teaching reported speech and direct speech, it's a great activity for that, to get students doing it. Descriptive notes such as body language, they have to be shown. They aren't said. So you can't, if it says in the novel that Rapunzel let down her long hair, it has to be acted out, and then they're talking about it and saying it some interesting way, right? So grammatically, it's a little bit different, right? So I did something on Rapunzel with some other teachers in Bulgaria, actually, yeah. Uncover a mystery. Research something you and others don't understand. Find 3 or more possible explanations. Now, I travel a lot. I've been to 43 countries, and everywhere I go to art galleries and museums. But often there's no explanation in English. Even if there's an explanation in Spanish or Chinese or French, it still doesn't explain it. And this is at the Gold Museum in Bogota, Colombia. And there's this character. Is it a human or a mouse or a frog? I don't know. What's the purpose? It's all made out of gold. It's so precious that you couldn't, light a fire in it or something. Is it for serving something? What would you serve? It's a mystery. It's a mystery. So let students choose something. Here's another one. This is from Guatemala City. And I was in a small museum. I was walking out. I saw this bench. I took a quick picture, and I didn't look at it really closely till later. And I thought, what is this bench for? Bench for? And I thought, I think this is a bench for conversation. This is a bench where 2 people are talking to each other. You can see one person speaking, one person with their mouth closed. He's listening. What do they talk about? Well, if you come to this bench, there's writing all over it. So maybe there's things that they can talk about, stories or something. And say, well, what if they don't know how to read? Well, then someone can teach the other, right? So I think maybe this is just guessing. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm waiting to go back to the museum and ask actually about it. But teachers spend too much time asking questions for which they already know the answer. Like, what's the capital of Brazil? A question about something that's unknown or unknowable promotes creative and critical thinking. So again, every student finds their own, finds something different. Number 21. Word of the week. So choose one word each as a class or for each student and photograph it each time you see it. Better if every student finds a different one. Write down each time and place you hear it, if you hear the word being used. Of course, it's maybe being used in Portuguese, but you think they're used in Portuguese first, but why are they saying it? The task is about, again, raising language awareness. Students become aware of the individual word or phrase, as well as the grammar variations, the context, collocations, and changes in syntax. Write a chain story. Number 22. Start with an interesting first word or first sentence, and the next student follows with another word or another sentence. It's a great email chain that students can send to each other. The last student finishes the story. So if the story starts, when the fish started speaking English, I decided not to eat it, right? Why does it work? Already you're thinking of the next line in the story. The task makes students read and summarize the preceding text. As they develop the story, they need to consider and practice the key parts of every story. That's setting, plot, character, conflict, and resolution. You don't have to teach this. You don't have to do anything, right? The students will do this naturally. They will learn about the stories by doing it. And it works with nonfiction stories as well. Even a news story has a setting, a plot, a character, some kind of a conflict, and something that happened at the end, right? Write haiku, number 23. Haiku is a Japanese poem form, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllable structure, and it often refers to a season. So here's one relates to Brazil, actually, to do with my grandfather. His thoughts like snow. My whaler grandpa recalls Brazil's black coffee. Doesn't have to rhyme. So again, my grandfather, Norwegian, and he was on the whaling fleet in old wooden ships. In 1912, I think he was going through to Brazil to hunt whales. Yeah, but he talked to me once, and he said, "Oh, Brazil, the black coffee." That's all he said. Nothing else. I wish he was still here to talk to. Why does it work? The task forces students to think of their message and struggle with syllables and synonyms to fit it into the strict arrangement of syllables per line. The form is short enough that students can write several and even start thinking in a haiku. It's natural to do it. Any other kind of poetic form works. You could do with limericks or something as well. But again, it starts students thinking. Give them a theme related to this week, whatever you're studying in class. Okay, write unusual rules. This is a very funny one. Write a list of rules for English for something that people do, but that they don't have rules for. Like choosing a dream or dating, falling in love. How do you fall in love? How do you make decisions? How do you select a pet? You know, so whatever it is. But you would just ask students to think about rules. Why does it work? The task is personalized, it's individualized, and it invites collaboration as students share their rules with each other. So everybody has a different task. Open-ended tasks encourage students to explore more deeply. They develop these lifelong learning and research skills. Finally, 25 out of 25, write your future CV. What will your life be like in 10 or 20 years? Write a CV with all that you want to have accomplished in the education you've completed, the jobs you've had, where you're living, your family, your dreams, whatever. Just put it all into a CV that's like 10 or 20 years in the future. So the students do this, and you can do this yourself. What does it do? It's a subversive way of getting students to set goals. So all of a sudden, students may not be thinking about the future, but this forces them to. It forces them to think about the future. They automatically consider the 5 aspects of goal setting, which is to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. It's the SMART tools for goals. As students consider their goals, they begin to realize how English can help to get them there. So it's motivating. And again, that's a big thing we want to do, is motivate students. Oh, wow, that's a lot of information. What do we know? What do we know? 1 challenge, 4 principles, 25 ideas. Okay, the big challenge was there's not enough time in the classroom. The principles were personalized, individualized, and externalized, and make it collaborative. All of this will help to motivate students. I gave you 25 ideas. A lot of these external projects increase student responsibility, and it helps to make them lifelong learners. So I hope that's useful. Thank you. So that's almost finished on time. So now I think maybe we have a little bit of time for questions. If anyone has any questions, bring it on. And my email, as I say, is there, as well as my website and Startup, which is a series that I work on for Pearson. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
Amazing presentation. Thank you so much. It was mind-blowing. Since we received more compliments than questions in the chat, I will ask you some questions myself, okay?
Great.
The first one is, sometimes students don't have any time outside of class to practice English. What should we do?
Okay, so this is common, and the same students who say, "Oh yes, I have no time," but they're watching TV, they're texting all day, they're up doing other things, they're going to parties. They do. The big thing is a lot of these tasks can be integrated into real life. They can take photographs anywhere, so be out. They can think about many of these things and write their lists or do anything else. So it's not a big challenge. Yeah. I'll just plug in. I think I'll get it better because I'm getting feedback. So basically,
Okay.
I think call them on it, make them realize they do have time. There we are. And yeah, and make sure they, can you hear me still? Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you still
Is
hear
it
me?
better
Yeah.
now? Yeah,
Okay. So
perfect.
then make sure that they are realize that they do have time. And English is one of their jobs. They are students, and their job is to learn. So really, they're going to learn by spending a little bit of time outside of class learning. It's not like they're going to a restaurant and you're just feeding them a meal and they'll be full. They've got to put some work into doing it themselves. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I have one more question, and it's so common. Many students do not want to participate and do not turn on their cameras during class. Is there
Yeah.
anything I can do to help get them on screen?
Yeah. Okay. So I know it's very challenging. And first of all, we need to understand why do they not want to come on screen? Sometimes it's because, their homes, they don't want you seeing where they live. They think it's too personal in their bedroom, or or they just don't want that to happen. Other times they just don't, they want to sleep or something while that's going on. I have a friend in Slovakia. He's a teacher, and he said, okay, enough, because none of his students were coming on. He said, every week I need 5 students. This week, first 5, next week, 5 more, 5 more. You must always be there to answer the questions, to present, to do everything else. So 5 a week. So that was more reasonable to them. But something amazing happened. A miracle happened. The first day when they came on, the first ones, they were all dressed up. The boys all had suits and ties on. The girls were dressed in their prom outfits, dresses with makeup and their hair done up. It was a joke. It was a joke. But what was better is the next week, the next 5 students were cowboys. They all came on. They were dressed like cowboys. The next week, they were all vampires. It was like every week, the students tried to do something better than the last week. And it became so memorable, so fun for all of them. It was really, really a great thing. So again, think of some reasons why they should be online, and just say it's a communication class. You need to communicate. You need to communicate with your face, not just speaking. So
Yeah,
that's important.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Dr. Ken. We hope to see you here with us next year.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
taught and
Indeed.
it impacted us a lot today.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Have
Thank you
a
very much.
great
And
one.
please, if you have any other questions, write me. Okay. Bye
Of
bye.
course. Bye bye.